Now let's get into our question of the week. Just one for you guys this week, and it's an exciting one when we're looking at the results of the poll at the moment. Who will be the world number one after the World Championship? The options we've put on the poll: Michael van Gerwen, Peter Wright, Gerwyn Price, and other. Who are you going with?
As of the time we're recording, it is a dead heat in the poll between Michael van Gerwen and Peter Wright. Still a week to vote, and would be surprised if it ends in a dead heat. But to be fair, it's basically a dead heat between them right now overall. 500 pounds separate the two in the race to be world number one after the World Championships, because Michael van Gerwen, of course, will be defending his world title money from what is almost 2 years ago now, while Peter Wright went out first match that time. So the ball's in Peter Wright's court, but it's also in Michael van Gerwen's, because all he has to do is outperform Peter Wright. And for the better part of 7 years, that's what he has done over an extended period of time. That said, Michael van Gerwen isn't playing like he has over those 7 years. Peter Wright, okay, didn't have the best of weekends. He lost in the quarterfinals, but he averaged 108 in that match. Sorry, semifinals, but he averaged 108 in that match. His lowest average was still over the ton. That's not too bad for a weekend where you say he could have done a little bit better. I think Peter Wright is playing better than Michael van Gerwen right now, and it's definitely playing more consistent than Michael van Gerwen right now. You mentioned earlier the recency bias. That obviously goes in for Gerwyn Price. He has a little bit more ground to make up, but if any of these three win the World Championships, they're most likely going to end the year number one. Gerwyn Price, maybe not if he has to beat van Gerwen in the final, or one of Wright or van Gerwen win a couple other TV events. But there's a lot to play for. But I think Peter Wright's just playing that little bit better. I think he is the most likely of those three to win the World Championship. That's not to say that I think he is going to win the World Championship, but he is the most likely of those three. And therefore, I'm going to say he's the most likely of the three to end the year or end the season as the world number one.
It's a very interesting topic at the moment, and there's a lot of darts to be played, isn't there, before we get to the end of the World Championship sometime early January. We're not quite sure on the dates for that one yet, but we're used to having this busy end to the year. The last 3 months of the season, we have the World Grand Prix, Grand Slam, European Championship, the Players' Championship finals, then leading into the World Championship. So there's a lot of money to play for, and you look at the rankings right now. Michael van Gerwen, he's on £1,500,000 plus, and at the moment, when you look at it like that, there's a big gap. But as you say, in terms of defending money, Peter Wright, aside from defending the World Grand Prix final from 2 years ago, he had a pretty disappointing last 3 months of the 2018 season. You mentioned he went out early in the World Championship to, I believe that was the year he lost to Tony Alcinas, but there was a few other tournaments there, some big tournaments when he didn't really do much. Michael won the World Grand Prix, won the World Championship. I think he had a semi-final and a final win there as well. Gerwyn Price, that was the year he won his first Grand Slam, so he's defending a major title. And for that reason, and considering how well he's playing at the moment, Peter Wright's probably got to be a decent bet to get that. And okay, there's a lot of events to play, but he's got a brilliant opportunity. It's tough to get to that number one spot when you've got the 2 year rolling list, and players don't have to defend money for almost, coming up to that 2 years later, so they can get right high up the rankings if they win the right events. But Peter Wright, he's been pushing for a while, and I'll give a signpost, if you like, to a chat that I had with Peter 5 years ago coming up to now. We put it out on this feed during the lockdown when I had a sit-down chat with him, and he said towards the end of it, I'm going to get to number one in the world. I'm pushing Michael, and I can't wait to overtake him. Well, we're getting close to 5 years since that conversation, and this is probably the closest that he's ever got, and perhaps it could be the closest he's ever going to get to being world number one. The form he's in at the moment, this is the chance to do it. So if he can pick up a couple of big titles between now and the World Championship at the end of that, I think he's got every chance. And as listeners to this show know, I'm a big Peter Wright fan myself, so I've got my fingers crossed for him as well.